guys, welcome back. Sorry it's been a little while. I've been dealing with construction both outside my apartment and across the hall. And they both seem to start when the other one is stopped. So, finally, we're going to talk about the Great War Against Chaos. As bloody as the Age of Anarchy had been, the Empire's greatest test was yet to come. The realm of chaos is a place polluted with evil sorcery. It is a nightmarish landscape from which hordes of bloodthirsty marauders, ironclad champions, mutant monsters, and vile demons launch their attacks upon the world. This war-racked land lies far from to the north of the Empire. However, when the winds of magic blow strongly, the realm of chaos expands. The northern wastes are swallowed up, and the armies of chaos pour down through Troll Country into Kislev and the Empire. The furthest the realm of chaos has ever expanded in the history of the Empire was during the Great War Against Chaos, which began in the year 2301. Having risen to prominence among the northern barbarian tribes over many years, Asafar Kul was the most powerful champion of the Dark Gods to have ascended in an age. With his nightmarish armies finally united, he moved southward. Fueled by the growing tide of chaos, demons moved with them, sustained by fresh tides of life-giving magic, and herds of beastmen rampaged unchecked through the forests. In the heartlands of the Empire, evil sorcerers and worshippers of the Chaos Gods emerged from their secret conclaves to attack human society from within. As winter engulfed the old world, the Chaos armies struck. The northern lands of Kislev were quickly overwhelmed. An army of Kislevites and Ostlanders mustered to face Kul and his unholy allies, but it was crushed north of the city of Prague. Nothing, it seemed, could stop Kul's murderous advance, and despite a fierce battle at the bridges of the river Linsk, the Empire and Kislevite forces were massacred, and Kul's forces crossed the last barrier between it and Prague. In one of the Chaos videos that I've done, a Warriors of Chaos video, I can't remember what I titled it, this story is told from the Chaos side, so if you're interested, I think it's like the second video. The Siege of Prague. The siege of Prague lasted until late 2302, with the city's brave defenders hurling back their attackers time and again with desperate heroics and stalwart bravery. As winter set in once more and the year drew to a close, Prague finally fell and the hordes of chaos ran amok within its walls. The raw power of chaos engulfed the city, and Prague was changed forever. Its survivors fused together in hellish and inhuman shapes. Living bodies melted into the walls of the city itself so that it became impossible to tell flesh from stone. Distorted faces peered from walls, agonized limbs writhed from the pavements, and pillars of stone groaned with voices that issued from once human lips. Prague had become a living nightmare, and a grim warning of the suffering that lay ahead for all if the warriors of the Dark Gods were victorious. Magnus the Pious. Remnants of the defeated Kislevite army fled south, spreading the word of their defeat. As the Empire readied itself for full-scale invasion, a leader arose from the horror of those troubled times, Magnus, a noble of Nuln. He would later become known as Magnus the Pious because of his unflinching devotion to the cult of Sigmar, and to the ideals of nationhood that Sigmar still signified in the divided empire. Magnus was a magnificent orator whose rousing speeches raised a massive following among the common folk in the empire. He marched northwards from city to city, addressing the people in the marketplaces, gathering about him an army the likes of which had not been seen for centuries. The elector counts and burgomeisters were shrewd politicians and recognized Magnus as a powerful leader, quickly realizing that they could gain much prestige and political power by supporting him. Soon, the soldiers of the elector counts and the noble warriors of the Empire's knightly orders marched alongside Magnus's citizen militia, and by the time the army reached Middenheim, it was the single largest force that had ever been assembled in the history of the Empire. Magnus was forced to divide his troops into two armies, as no single territory could provide enough food and water to support them all. The first army, consisting mostly of vengeful Kislevite lancers and glory-hungry knights, rode with all speed to Prague, hoping to arrive in time to relieve the siege. They arrived too late, however, and found only the horror that Prague had become. Mustering their courage, they turned south to wreak their vengeance upon the Chaos Horde's rearguard. The second army, led by Magnus himself, marched to the city of Kislev, hoping to resupply at the capital before continuing onwards. While traveling north, the army was joined by an unexpected ally in the form of Teclis, greatest of high elven mages, who had heard of man's fight against their common foe, and now pledged his incredible powers to Magnus's cause. Upon reaching Kislev, Magnus discovered the city already under bloody siege by Asavar Kul's dark army, with but a few Kislevites and a large contingent of dwarves from Karazakarak desperately fighting to defend it. Huge leather-winged monsters and warp-spawned demons swarmed the battlements, and giant horned beasts assaulted the city walls, beside hordes of ironclad warriors. Kislev could not hold on much longer, and Magnus knew that if the city fell, the Empire would surely be next. Marching amidst the ranks of the common soldiers, Magnus immediately ordered his warriors to hold their banners aloft and charge. Concentrating on the trapped defenders, the Chaos Army was ill prepared for this fresh assault, and they were scattered by the sudden attack. Grim-faced regiments of state troops drove a wedge deep within the Chaos host, supported by hails of crossbow bolts and thunderous volleys of handgun fire. Artillerymen from Nuln, amongst the very first warriors to flock to Magnus's griffin emblazoned banner, deployed in commanding positions overlooking the battlefield, and then wreaked a terrible toll on the Chaos forces. Regiments of Chaos warriors, knights, and foul dragon ogres were all cut to bloody ribbons by the artillery fire. The battle went well for Magnus initially, and victory seemed assured, but Asavar Kul was a mighty leader and rallied his troops to counterattack. Before long, the greater numbers of the Chaos Force began to tell, and Magnus's army was gradually pushed back into a defensive circle. Horrifying demons slaughtered entire regiments with razor talons and brazen spell-forged blades, while evil sorcerers unleashed powerful ancient magic. Teclis and a handful of human wizards he had recently trained fought against the sorcery of Kul's shamans in magical battles that burned the skies with lethal energies. The dwarves inside Kislev attempted to break out to help Magnus, but they were contained and forced back behind the city walls. Magnus's army was surrounded, and it seemed that the fate of the old world was sealed. As Kul's warriors fell upon Magnus's army in the final attack, the Kislevite lancers and Imperial Knights returning from Prague appeared over the ridge of what would become known as the Hill of Heroes, and they thundered into their armies with hatred burning in their hearts. The dwarves and remaining defenders charged once more from the city, and Magnus seized this last desperate chance to lead the men of the Empire forwards in glorious battle. The Chaos Hordes faltered as they suddenly faced no less than 3 armies, and began to stampede in every direction, bewildered and confused by this new turn of events. Kislevites were driven to wild fury by the destruction they had witnessed in Prague, and the host of Asavar Kul was slaughtered by the implacable anger of the combined forces. The magic of Teclis and his human apprentices immolated entire regiments of mindless chaos spawn and dozens of blood-crazed chimerae, while frenzied manticores were struck from the skies by sorcerous thunderbolts. The army of chaos was shattered, and thousands of its warriors were hacked down as they turned to flee in utter rout. As the witches and sorcerers of the Chaos host were cut down, the foul magic binding the demons to the mortal realm was severed, and the unholy creatures exploded into mists of blood and clouds of flies. The old world had been saved, and the realm of chaos shrank away to the north once more. The Empire endures. Magnus was elected emperor in 2304. The elector counts could not have voted otherwise, even if they had wanted. The people demanded it, and were not to be denied. Magnus the Pious proved an extremely able emperor and immediately set about restoring order to the provinces of the empire. The servants of chaos were hunted down in the forests, and many wild and long abandoned lands were resettled. Magnus knew that if the Empire was to survive, it needed the aid of its allies, and thus one of his first acts was to ask Teclis to create an institution whereby wizards might be properly trained. Oh, interesting. I had no idea that up to this point the Empire didn't have wizards. Though many elves claimed that the secrets of sorcery were not meant for men, Teclis realized that the safety of the world rested upon the folk of the Empire, and so he agreed to Magnus's request. Thus were the colleges of magic established in the city of Altdorf. Magnus also recognized the valuable contributions the master gunners of Nuln and the engineers of Altdorf had made to the defense of the Empire. He granted them formal charter, and forevermore, both institutions would proudly bear the prefix Imperial, becoming integral parts of the Emperor's armies in the war-racked years to come. The reign of Karl Franz. Since its found... Okay. So actually we're gonna make this a short video because, of course, I can hear them starting to gear up out in the hallway. So, we will talk about the reign of Karl Franz some other time, hopefully soon. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this brief video, and I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.